Thank you for taking the time to watch this episode of Life Support. If you enjoy the content, we would ask that you like it, hit subscribe, and share it with your friends. Hey, it's so good to have you on Life Support. What we do in this program is we love to tell stories about how God changes lives, and we love to talk about different organizations that are making a difference in our community, and we have one of those today. The executive director of The Dwelling Place is with us, Jenna Perez, and thank you so much for dropping by. I appreciate it so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
So tell me about The Dwelling Place. What exactly is The Dwelling Place up to? What do you do there?
Yeah. The Dwelling Place, we are a Christ-centered ministry. We've been around for 27 years. We were founded in 1998, and we offer supportive services and transitional housing to women and children who have escaped domestic violence.
Okay. And you've been doing it how long?
Since 1998.
Wow.
So 27 years, I believe, is the math.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
You have a lot going on. Plus, you help pastor a church, too. So you're a very busy person.
Yep, all for kingdom work. It's all good.
Well, thanks for making time for us.
Of course.
Domestic abuse. Christians don't talk about that very much. How prevalent is it?
That's a great question. Such a truth that it's not mentioned enough. So statistics say 1 in 3 women will experience domestic abuse in her lifetime, and 1 in 4 will experience intimate partner physical abuse. Okay.
And is this a difficult thing when you're the victim to talk about, and so it stays hidden?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the reality. Is I talk with people often and they're like, 1 in 3, there's no way, I don't know anybody. And I'm like, well, that's the point, is it's not something that people air or they're proud of. There's a lot of shame and they're trying to persevere and push through. Statistically, a woman will return to her abusive partner 7 times before she finally leaves. So there is a lot of shame and condemnation. And also we see cycles of abuse. So maybe her mother was in an abusive relationship and she grew up in an abusive home, and those cycles just perpetuate. Mm-hmm. And then unfortunately, if you don't break the cycle, her children often will also end up in an abusive relationship.
Wow. So why don't they want to come out of and talk about this? What are the dangers that they see in that?
Well, there's a lot of barriers for a woman to leave. Initially, there's often not a pathway out of the abuse. So they have no financial ability because the finances are being controlled by the abuser. They don't know where to go or where to start. And the women we see at the Dwelling Place, they don't have safe family members or somebody they could go to. Right. So what I often mention is, for a lot of us, if we were to be in an abusive relationship, we might have a relative or a friend that has a couch for us and our kiddos to stay at for a season. But the sad reality is that the women at the Dwelling Place, they don't have anybody that they can count on or that could open up their home to them. And so they stay stuck in these relationships. They have no way out that they can see. Plus, as I mentioned, all that shame and stigma, they're embarrassed to talk about it. So that's where when they hear about the Dwelling Place, there's a place that I can go with my kids for up to 2 years, find healing, restoration. It's kind of like a rehabilitative program for them. Right. So it's like this hope to get them out of those situations. Yeah,
what's sad about when people are victims of this type of thing, or any abusive behavior, is that they're ashamed to talk about it, and they're the ones who are being victimized.
Right, absolutely.
And is that because people don't want to hear it, or they, somewhere in the back of their minds, they're blaming that woman for, like, why don't you leave? Why are you just putting up with that?
I think that's a really complex question. Yeah. I think it depends on the situation. I think there's been some bad theology about it that, stay in the marriage. God doesn't condone divorce. So I think from a Christian perspective, there's that issue. I think there's just, when we find ourselves in hard situations, it's just shameful to admit it, whether it's our fault or not. And so they're battling that. Truthfully, I think it's just the way the enemy gets in and keeps them stuck. It's these lies that they're believing that keeps them held in those situations. Yeah,
it's interesting that you talk about the money, because every now and then a woman will come and talk to me who's in this situation, and I don't remember a time when the abuser hasn't been in control of the money.
Absolutely. It's a tactic that they use to keep them controlled.
Yeah, and then so, there's this concern of, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't, that's all I have.
Yeah, absolutely. We partner with local women's shelters. And so what the women's shelters will do is they will come alongside the woman. They'll send an Uber in the middle of the night when they can leave without anyone noticing, the clothes on their back and their kiddos. They get into this Uber and they go to a shelter. And they're in a shelter for 30, 60 days. They have very short-term limits. And for some women, that's all they need to get on their feet. But for a lot of women, they need longer-term care because the healing from this trauma and abuse takes years. And that's where they hear about the dwelling place and have a space to come and really heal long-term.
Yeah, that's good. What do the abusers do then? Once they wake up and everybody's gone.
Well, there's a lot of privacy and confidentiality around our ministry. For example, our location is not advertised, and anybody who comes on site needs to sign a confidentiality contract. And within their first few weeks of being away, of course, this abuser, this partner is going to be looking for them, calling them repeatedly, doing all of their efforts to find them. So a lot of times, depending on the situation, there's order for protection that needs to be filed, of course, divorces. Sometimes we've even gone so far as to have name changes for the women and her children in some extreme cases. So you do what you have to do to protect the women and children.
Yeah. Do the abusers turn dangerous sometimes when they feel like they've been duped, or
absolutely
they go chasing them?
It definitely depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Some narcissists would never want anybody externally to see them as a bad guy, and so they would never show that. But we had a resident a few years ago who she fled state lines, came actually in the trunk of her friend's car. It was that dangerous.
Wow.
She arrived at the dwelling place with her 8-year-old daughter. They went through all the order for protection and the name change. He, in a pursuit to find her, went after her mom, burned her mom's home down in a violent rage, and we were able to then rescue her mom and bring her also to the dwelling place. And so they are one of the more extreme cases. He was a drug trafficker and a lot of scary things. And so that's why it's very important for us to be in a confidential location for our staff, for all of the people working there. We don't want anyone's lives to be at
you don't want
danger.
Anybody to. But here's the thing: a lot of times churches don't think this could possibly happen, and it seems like these guys are very good at when they're in public, when they're around, everybody would think, what a great guy.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the woman's thinking, and I'm just using that, I mean, I know it happens both ways, but the woman's thinking, well, no one's going to believe me if I say anything because they think this guy's such a great guy. Mm-hmm. And that has to be a scary thing for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the case. Often nobody believes her, and she's the crazy one, and she's making up all of these lies. And even family members sometimes have no idea. And so that is also a fear of them coming out and telling the truth is, will anyone believe me?
Mm-hmm. And if you're in a church and you're thinking this is only for outside the church, not so much, right?
Sadly, it's the same statistics inside and outside of church.
Yeah, what are those statistics?
That 1 in 3 women are victims of abuse and 1 in 4 of violent
So
abuse.
If you're preaching on a Sunday, you can look out there and at least 1 in 4 of your women, if not more, are undergoing some kind of abuse.
Yeah, or have experienced it in their lifetime.
Yeah. So what does a pastor do when a woman knocks on his door and says, this is happening?
That's a great question. I would say the first step is to believe her.
Yeah.
Statistically, they don't lie about that. There's too much at risk on the line. Believe her, listen to her, and then what we always recommend is that you create a safety plan. So what is going to be my plan to escape? What is my safety plan? And then start taking steps towards that. And that's where partners like us come alongside and are able to support these families.
So you're a great place for a ministry worker to refer and say, hey, help me.
Yeah, absolutely. We also offer trainings for pastoral staff, a domestic violence 101 course where we can come in and train staff. Here's warning signs to look for. Here, these are practical ways you can be an ambassador for these women, because it is in every congregation.
Yeah. Yeah. Dwelling Place we're talking about today with the executive director. Her name is Jenna Perez, and we're talking about this issue of domestic abuse. It does happen in churches, unfortunately, and we need to be aware of that. Tell me about the situation where a woman has now come forward. She's now vulnerable. She's made it known. Is it hard for them to? I mean, they're cutting the ties too, right? I mean, they're leaving everything they know.
Yeah.
So that has to be very difficult.
It is, yeah. And it depends on the family situation. Sometimes they're cut out of the whole family. No one believes them. They love their son-in-law, and they don't even believe their daughter. And she's now very, very isolated. And as I mentioned, often the women that come to our program don't have safe families. And so they're very lonely. They're very isolated. So living in community like we offer is so restorative and healing in their healing process.
Yeah, what is that community like? I mean, what goes on there?
It's a great question. So the women come to us, as I mentioned, from shelters, sometimes from sleeping in their car, or a church referral, or somebody hears about us and is able to share that with them. And they move into the dwelling place, and their first day they have their own apartment. So we have certain things that are trauma informed. We have doors that lock. We have security systems, just to give them that peace. So they walk into their apartment, and one of my favorite things is to experience their faces when they first come in. They open the doors to their rooms, and they have beds made up for them, and we have welcome baskets on all of the beds. So for the woman, it's an extra set of sheets and towels and basic needs and lotions and all of that.
Yeah.
And for the kids, it's a warm blanket and a toy and a stuffed animal, and the kids are always giddy and jumping around. And we actually just had we had 5 families move in on Thursday, so just a few days ago. And the little boy, one of the little 8-year-old boys, walked in, and he goes, "What? I have a bed for myself? I've never had one of those." And as we found out, he'd been sleeping on the floor in the living room in a tiny apartment. And so it's just so beautiful, that first step of walking in and feeling peace. And we always hear the women say, "I didn't know this kind of peace existed." So that begins the healing journey. And we have different phases the women move through. So in the very beginning, they're in classes for 15 hours a week, Monday through Friday, for 3 hours a day. And it's a whole rehabilitation program for the women. So we have Bible class and chapel, and we're Christ-centered curriculum, and we have therapy and support group and life skills and parenting and all of the classes. So while mom is healing on one side of our building, her child is also receiving care on the other side of the building with staff that are trained in trauma-informed care and Christ-centered curriculum and age-appropriate care. So our whole philosophy is the woman and child healing side by side. So they're in that program for about 6 to 8 months of intensive healing. They have a case manager and a therapist that partner along in that healing journey. Then they move to phase 2 for 12 to 18 months. Now they're working or in school full-time, beginning to reintegrate into society, but they're still living in community living. They still have a therapist and a case manager. They're still encouraged to be involved in their church community. And then we near graduation. And so phase 3 is graduation. They need to hit 3 things. They need to have completed phase 1, which is our programming. They need to have a safe place to live. So they have their case manager working to find them housing. And they need stable income. And then we get to throw them a beautiful graduation party and just celebrate this milestone, and then watch them step out. And we have an alumni program that continues to support them after graduation.
Wow, that's really cool. Do you find then that the abuser has backed off by then and has moved on somewhere, or is it still an issue even then?
It's case by case.
Yeah.
It definitely depends. The beautiful thing of the alumni program is they come back each month for support group. We pair them up with a mentor in the community for 1 year after graduation that meets with them weekly. We have an alumni program manager that meets with them, because we're finding, healing doesn't happen only in 2 years. Healing is a lifetime. And so we don't want them to graduate and then be in a vulnerable place to go back. And so we want to see those cycles of abuse broken. And depending on that abuser, how aggressive he is, there's a lot of different safety protocols we put in place.
So you're obviously a pretty big operation. How did you get interested in doing this?
I first heard about the dwelling place. So I was actually a missionary in Venezuela and worked in children's homes. And so we had 8 children's homes on a farm. And my heart has always been women and children just finding freedom in their identity in Christ. That's been my passion. And so after serving in Venezuela, I met my husband overseas. He's a Venezuelan pastor. And we moved back to the States and then ended up planting a bilingual Spanish-English church. And then I had never heard of the dwelling place. And I had a friend who started working there and was telling me about it. And I was like, oh, what a beautiful ministry, restoring women and children's dignity and their lives and finding healing. And it just aligned with how God has uniquely created me. I don't have my own abuse story, but I just have a passion for women and children that have been victims of injustice and injustice, whatever that might look like. So it was just a perfect alignment for me. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of what God is doing at the dwelling place.
Well, it's important that we understand what's happening because a lot of times we think when we're talking to a woman in that situation that, a shelter's like a cheap hotel somewhere. And then, what's going to happen in 2 days or something.
Yep.
But what you're describing is a completely different world than what comes to my mind a lot of times.
Right. And we, as I mentioned, we love shelters and we partner with them. But what we're finding is there are a lot of women out there that just need deeper care and they need a lot more depth of programming and support, and that in 2 months they can't just land on their feet. And so that's where we partner with them and help them really find that stability. And I'm telling you what, we have a constant waiting list. At 15 families, we start referring them elsewhere, but we have a constant waiting list of 10 to 15 families. And the need is huge. I mean, we could continue to buy more properties, but we are trusting the Lord that there will be other ministries that can come alongside as well, because we just really want to go deep with these women and children.
Yeah, what are some of the needs you have right now? There are a lot of people listening that pray and volunteer and all those things. So what are some of the things that you're dealing with?
Yeah. Well, of course, we always covet everyone's prayers. We trust in the Lord to go before us and behind us and all around us and provide for us. So we would love that prayer covering. And then volunteers, we have a significant volunteer base. Last year we had 421 volunteers.
Wow.
So we have a lot that come in, and there are many opportunities to volunteer, from mowing the lawn to mentoring the children to tutoring to mentoring the women, teaching classes. There's a huge variety of volunteer service, and the easiest way to do that is just to go on to our website to fill out the volunteer form. We also have 2 big events we host each year, a women's gathering and an annual gala, and we love for people to come and hear more about what we do.
What is the website address?
It is TDP, like the dwelling place, tdpmn.org.
And so what does the future look like? What are your dreams for the dwelling place?
Well, we are in a crazy exciting season of expansion. And so it was summer of 2025. We had opened another home, so 8 additional bedrooms for our women and children. And we had 26 kids living at the dwelling place at the time. And that was with 4 of our homes filled. And we now have a 5th home. And we had space for 18 kiddos. And we had 26 kids. So if you asked any of our childcare staff, they were busting at the seams.
Yeah.
And we needed more space. And what was happening was we were turning away families that had children. We were only able to take single women without children, which is beautiful, and we love them. But we also have been founded by a mom and her children who had escaped domestic violence. So women and children healing was a core of who we were. So it was really what pushed us to begin looking for an additional building. And so in this past July of 2026, we were able to purchase a 11,000 square foot building. and half of it is going to be a child care center for up to 55 kiddos, and the other half of the building is staff space and women's programming. So now the woman can come, drop her kiddo off, and go and receive her own care. So we went from space for 18, and now we have space for 55 kiddos.
Wow, that's exciting.
It's very exciting, and it's opened the door for so many more families. And then we're now in this phase 2 of this expansion project, which is going to allow us to, one of the homes we had was used for childcare and office space. So now that'll be converted back into residential, and some other of our spaces will have an on-site fitness center for holistic healing and a career center. So lots of expansion happening, and I just feel like I'm holding on as God is leading us ahead.
Yeah, well, that's the way it works, like the project's underway, so hang on and see where God takes it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's really great, because when you talk about a waiting list for something like this, that's just difficult, right? Because you're in crisis.
Yeah.
It happens fast.
Yeah. It does. And that's the reality, is that if we aren't able to attend to the women on our list, we don't know where they'll go and what they'll do.
Yeah. Well, when we have you back, I do want to talk to you. You mentioned briefly about the theology that leads some women into difficulties. I want to talk to you about that. And I want to talk to you a little more about how pastors can react, and how pastors might be able to, see abuse happening, or at least detect that it could be happening in a relationship. Because you don't have to be very bright to be a pastor. You just have to work hard. So we need all the help we can get. But again, give the website. This is a wonderful ministry, and there are people that are going to call. So tell me the website and how to get a hold of you.
Absolutely. The website is tdpmn.org.